Okay, Mark.
Mr. Jepsen, on your website you promised to work to, quote, eliminate socioeconomic and racial achievement gap that plagues our education system. What would be the role of the Attorney General in that regard? Is there litigation that you would consider filing?
Just a quick correction from what Martha just said. Attorney General Blumenthal is an historic opponent of the death penalty, and his vigorous representation of the Michael Ross case is an example of his willingness to put his personal beliefs aside in order to fully enforce the law. The issue to which you speak is a very important one in Connecticut. The achievement gap for minority students and inner city students threatens our economic future. Supreme Court, this is something that's going to play out over time, and it's a good thing that I'm going to be in there for at least more than one term. As you know, the Connecticut Supreme Court recently ruled that the Connecticut Constitution guarantees students a right to an adequate education to prepare them for the job world in which they're going to enter. In other words, merely providing an education isn't enough. There has to be some kind of ascertainable standard that you are providing them with an education that will allow them to enter the workforce. This litigation is going to play out over the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and the Attorney General will inevitably play a very strong role in determining the course of that litigation, and will be part of any meetings or settlement discussions that are going to take place. So that's the form in which I envision this taking place.
But might you not also be in a position of trying to defend the state's financial interest and perhaps act to put a brake on such a lawsuit?
As I mentioned before, I'm about to run out of time.
I'll
follow it up
Yes, let me just say that there is education being available to all. It just has to be one of the highest values of our free society. It's as my opponent said, the purpose of that public education is to enable kids to eventually enter the work world, but also to be able to vote, the case says, or to be able to go to college or to a technical school. Voting is very important, and I absolutely support efforts within the constitutional bounds and fiscal restraints. But I will vigorously defend the state taxpayers' pocketbooks vigorously. So if there is a minimum standard set by the Constitution and that is challenged, the argument is that every child needs a computer at their desk in school, otherwise what's provided is unconstitutional, I will vigorously defend that. We're not talking about the ideal schools, we're not talking about the best schools, we're talking about the constitutional standard, which is a minimum. Now, I would like to say that I will refuse to take the class warfare bait. I refuse to see people in the inner city as different from people in the suburbs. And I believe strongly, as I think many of you do, that there are serious family issues, drug issues, single-parent issues, poverty issues, and that those need to be addressed through other means. Education is one way of giving our citizens a hand up, but we have very, very serious issues to address in those other realms.
Attorney Jepsen.
Yes, a big part of being a lawyer is giving frank legal advice to your client, telling them things that they may not want to hear. And in the education context, that could include giving them strong advice that they need to move further in setting standards that are adequate for children's education.